Hi and welcome to the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast for athletes, coaches and professionals who want to achieve their goals faster. I'm David Charlton and I'll be sharing proven methods from leading athletes, coaches and experts that will help you get the most from your talent. Today's show is sponsored by Functional Intelligent Training, who are a sports injury clinic located in Gosforth near Newcastle upon Tyne and specialise in athlete development, nurturing future champions, strength and conditioning support and excellent rehabilitation services. Welcome to episode 25 of Demystifying Mental Toughness. Now today life is very different to what it was last Friday when the last episode was released. The goalposts have been moved hugely, certainly in the UK, with the government guidelines and lockdown 2 now in place. So as a result, resilience is required, and lots of resilience. And if we consider what resilience is, it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, i.e. toughness. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about resilience, the important aspects of control, which are linked to mental toughness. I'm going to go on to share 3 strategies which are really going to help you deal with this difficult situation. So when we look at resilience and we try to break it down, firstly, we need to think about the accuracy of analysing an event. So I'd like you just to question yourself in terms of this event, coronavirus, and certainly lockdown 2, how are you analysing this? Certainly I've noticed with conversations I've had with clients and different people and looking at social media, there's a lot of anger about how dare the government give up? How dare the government take so much control away from us? In my sporting work, golfers and people at grassroots level aren't able to do the things that they like doing, and there's a massive mistrust there with the government. I'm not going to get into politics though. So how are you analysing that event? Naturally, there might well be that anger, that resentment, that frustration. However, in the long term, is that going to help your mental health, your well-being? That's really, really questionable. So the resilient person would be able to be flexible in their mindset. They're able to view a number of different scenarios. So a little bit of advice there is try not to see this situation as either terrible, very terrible, or potentially good for yourself. It would be helpful for you just to try and find a middle ground. You might even want to rate the situation in terms of its importance on a scale of 1 to 10 and how that's going to affect you. And likewise, that's something I tell people when they're playing their sport or after they've given a presentation. It's very easy to label your performance as terrible or really, really good. Often they go for the terrible or the look of the downside, because naturally that's the way we're wired. So yeah, the advice there is to consider this situation lockdown 2 and give it a number of 1 to 10. And the resilient person will be quick to react, quick to bounce back from this challenge. They're going to have this internal drive to face new challenges. So in simple terms, they're probably more likely to have rosy tinted glasses on. Now, when we go on to think about mental toughness and how that differs to resilience is a very reactive trait, which is going to be helpful in the first few days, the first week or so of this period. But mental toughness is more proactive. It's going to help you over the next month, or let's be realistic, this period could go on for a good few months or so. So mental toughness, as a bit of a recap for people, is a plastic personality trait which determines in large part how people deal with challenges, stressors and pressure. And this is a stressful episode for many people. And as I've mentioned before, the fact that this is a plastic personality trait means that it can be developed and improved upon. Mental toughness is so important in this respect because the mentally tough are much better able to manage pressure, to manage stress better. Research tells us they're more content. And if you are performing still in a sporting capacity or in a personal or business capacity, remember that mental toughness explains up to 25% variation in performance. So by working on your mental toughness is only going to help you, especially in these difficult testing times. So certainly this period takes me back personally to 2007. And I'm going to share a personal story here. So in 2007, my wife, Alex, She, for 6 weeks or so, wasn't very well. She was sick. She had headaches. She was quite ill. And we went to the doctors a number of times and we didn't really get any answers. And towards the end of July 2007, she suddenly collapsed. So our mum contacted me at my work at the time and we took her to hospital and they did a range of tests on her in hospital. And as we left at around about midnight that night, they were keeping her in. The doctors, the consultants said to me that there was something seriously wrong, but they weren't sure what. And then to cut a long story short, I received a phone call at about 4 o'clock in the morning to say that she'd had some seizures. So I rushed into hospital and the consultants went on to say and tell me that she had 3 brain tumours. Naturally, that shook me up hugely. I was in my early 30s. She was a few years older than me. I could hardly breathe. My heart was going at 100 miles an hour for a long, long time. Mind was racing. It was panic stations. But this lasted for about 10 days because we weren't given a proper diagnosis. They had to do a whole range of tests. It was the longest 10 days of my life. I hardly slept for that period. So it was hugely, hugely difficult. After the August bank holiday weekend, which was very, very long, we found out that she had melanoma cancer, skin cancer, in simple terms, as well as the 3 brain tumours. And the indication that I got was that it was unlikely that she was going to live for a few months, about 3 or 4 months. So in my eyes, I didn't think she would see Christmas 2007 out. However, she was a fighter and she went through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, numerous operations, and she sadly died in November 2008. So we had 15 months together where we had some nice times and obviously some very, very difficult times. The reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is this period now with lockdown and the previous lockdown and that period for me were quite similar when I reflect back because control was passed away. I didn't feel like I had much control over that scenario whatsoever. It was very easy to think in the past and be consumed with the what ifs. I'd done that, and the what if I'd done this, and anger would take over, frustration. Then you could spend a lot of time in the future and you would get overwhelmed by the whole scenario. You'd find it really, really difficult to deal with. And it took up so much mental energy that it was draining. And this whole coronavirus period can get to you the same. So being able to stay in the present moment and ground yourself is definitely a skill. And in mental toughness terms, what it means is you're able to take more control, certainly over your life. Life control being one of the elements there. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of ideas, 3 ideas for you to try and take control of this situation and your well-being. Because it could be very, very easy for you to emotionally eat, to drink more, to have arguments and rows with family members, people in your household, when those tension levels, when those stress levels do build. Because let's face it, there's a lot of uncertainty there about jobs and our futures and a lot of resentment because we can't do the things that we'd like to do. And also, in some cases, there's concern that when is going to be the end of this journey? The tunnel feels blocked right now. So I'd like you to ask yourself the question, what worked for you in the previous lockdown? Or what has worked for you when you've had previous stressful periods in your life? What gives you energy? What makes you a better person to be around? I'd encourage you to look at the things that you can do as opposed to the things that you cannot do. For me, some of the challenges I've had in the previous lockdown period and just in 2020 would be spending time with family and not necessarily being present, being a little bit more snappy than I normally would be. So a good thing that you could possibly do there would be just think about your values. What's important to you in your relationships, with your family members, with your friends? How do you want to be? Another challenge I've had would be with the laptop and overworking. When you're working a lot from home, it's very easy to have the laptop open at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock at night. I know some people who have it open at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's not for me personally, but it's something, you can consider. You can set the rules and really try and stick to those rules. Another thing to consider would be the environment that you spend a lot of your time in. People are going to be confined to the house more because they're asked to work from home more. Think about the type of person you are. Are you more introverted and task-related? You like your head stuck down doing tasks on the laptop, or are you more social? Do you prefer chatting to your friends, messaging them, obviously seeing them face to face, which you're not going to be able to do? Then consider how you can make the best of your situation. Also, in thinking about the environment, just taking regular breaks. Certainly in the UK, we're going to find from about 8 a.m. through till 4 p.m. we've got daylight. And for the rest of the time, it's going to be dark. So actually getting some vitamin D, going out for a walk, on a bike, jog during daylight hours might be really, really beneficial for you and just help you feel that little bit better and give you some more energy. It's also going to mean if you are performing them in some sort of way, you're going to be focused. You're going to be able to perform at another 5-10%. You're going to be able to perform better. So I've talked about there things that you can do to help your energy levels and your relationships. To take it a step above, I'm sharing with you in the show notes a resource. That resource is a wellbeing menu. And in the show notes on my website, you'll notice I've attached 3 examples from different people that I've worked with in the past. And in my work, this has been quite a regular theme during 2020 to actually look at these wellbeing menus and identify some of the most important things that contribute to you feeling better in yourself. So what you actually do is list, and you can have 5, you can have 10, you can have 20 things in this list that positively contribute to your well-being. Then what you can do from there is actually rate on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being a low weighting, 5 being a high weighting in terms of the contribution towards positive well-being. And then periodically, I would suggest, perhaps you might want to do that now for a week, is rate yourself how closely aligned you've been to that particular task. So an example, it might be that eating well is one of the high priorities in order to help you feel better and more energized. If that's 5 points, if it's a high priority, then you would rate on a scale of 1 to 5 how well you've done on a particular day. If it's sleeping patterns, maybe going to bed at 9:30 like I do, and getting up bright and early at 5:30, 6 a.m., making sure you've got that 8.5 hours sleep. If that's a high priority, again a 5, then again rate on a particular day how well you've done. If you've gone to bed later, perhaps that would be a 3. And if you do this on a daily basis for a week or so, you can build up some really positive, good habits, which ultimately are going to help yourself get through this situation. As I mentioned before, it's much better to think about the things that you can control, the things that you can actually do, as opposed to the things that you can't do. So similar to you in my work and in my life, this current period has left me feeling a little bit uncertain about things. I'm not quite sure how things are going to map out with my work. Sport is a large part of what I do, and lots of things are going to be cancelled. For how long, it's questionable. Then you've got the whole childcare scenario. We have grandparents who are over 60, so how are we going to actually cope with that? You have the question marks over homeschooling. Will that actually appear further down the line? All of those sort of factors. So yeah, as a result, I have practiced what I preach. I've done my wellbeing menu, which I might just share in the show notes actually, alongside the other examples. And I hope that you find this quite useful to manage your own well-being. Please feel free to share this episode on to other people who may well benefit from it. You can review the show on iTunes. A nice 5-star rating would be wonderful. When you come to tune in to the next episode of Demystifying Mental Toughness, that you'll feel like these strategies are more in place in your life. You do have that essence of control. Also, so you're aware, I'm launching a group community very soon on Facebook, which is designed for athletes and for coaches, where we'll help and support each other using the mental toughness principles. The community will be a safe space to ask questions. It'll feature up-to-date information on mental toughness, i.e. research, tools and training. And there'll be lots of tips and ideas and weekly Q&As to help with your day-to-day life, as well as your future development. So for now, look after yourself and stay safe. I'd like to give a big thanks to today's sponsors, Functional Intelligent Training, who are a sports injury clinic located in Gosforth, near Newcastle upon Tyne, and specialise in athlete development, nurturing future champions, strength and conditioning support, and excellent rehabilitation services. Thank you for listening to Demystifying Mental Toughness today. To sign up for tips and advice to help you be the best that you can be, go to www.sport-excellence.co.uk and sign up to the Mental Edge newsletter.